Now we turn to our special report, our legal breakdown in this big new criminal case against Trump ally Steve Bannon. He got some very clearly bad legal news today while he remains defiant in public. I'm going to run through all of it with you right now. It starts with a hearing that is all about these two criminal counts he's facing over defying Congress in the investigation into the January 6th insurrection. Now, today there were proceedings that were not exactly the wild scene from Monday when Bannon was live streaming his arrival at an FBI field office and there were people all around. This was a virtual hearing, a status conference of sorts, a day after Bannon submitted formally a not guilty plea in writing. You can see the second time here, because he's been a defendant before, Stephen K. Bannon, the signature right there, not guilty. So that legal process continues. And then you have the news we're going to get into right now. The legal process is quite different in substance, as well as some of what we're hearing in the tone and the vibes, than the bravado that Bannon continues to exude outside of court in public. So even today, amidst these mounting and serious legal troubles that could land him in jail, Bannon invited a fellow elite MAGA warrior onto his internet show. This is Trump's former chief of staff, Mark Meadows. We'll put this up full on the screen, and basically what you have here is Meadows on War Room. That's Bannon's show. And he's right now, what you're seeing, this is important. He's talking to Steve Bannon here with the background, making media, while he is one of two wanted men in this legal investigation. One man indicted, that's Bannon. The other, Meadows, trying to walk a line to not end up in Bannon's shoes. They both know it. Their lawyers know it. And yet they carried on in this effort to avoid that topic, instead dreaming about Trump becoming House Speaker.
I would love to see the gavel go from Nancy Pelosi to Donald Trump. You're talking about melting down. People would go crazy.
That's Meadows on the War Room. And they are just talking up, boy, what if the Republicans win back the House and use the powers there to name Trump Speaker, which, by the way, is constitutionally allowed. You don't have to be a sitting member of Congress. What they avoided largely was why they're both in legal hot water. Bannon's also continued to lean into his familiar talking points, and the MAGA faithful are echoing them.
During the absolute free fall, we're going to run the House with 40, 50, 60 seats. I say 100 seats if we get focused. The death rattle of this Marxist regime, this illegitimate regime.
We only need 5 more seats to be in the majority. Then we have the subpoena power to bring these individuals in. We have the ability to stop what President Biden is doing. We have the ability to fire Nancy Pelosi.
That is the House leader for Republicans, McCarthy, sounding a lot like Bannon, who sounds like Trump. And so you see the strings that are being pulled. You see that Bannon is not just one more media figure in the right-wing echo chamber. He is actually saying and doing things in concert with the former president, who he's trying to protect, that may affect the way the House or other things are governed. Now, Bannon also took some shots at the press, and I can tell you as a journalist, I've spoken to Mr. Bannon repeatedly, and once at length in an MSNBC interview. Bannon is keenly aware of the power of the press, which is why he tracks it, participates in it, and then tries to make his own alternative media. Now, on his War Room internet show in these days since the indictment, he actually played some of our recent coverage right here on The Beat about his legal woes, trying to claim that it's all some sort of noisy media meltdown. He will be judged through a system that is not overseen by the president he helped elect.
That is all MSNBC noise. We're going to give you signal, all of this complete meltdown of the mainstream media.
I don't know. First of all, I don't feel like I'm melting down, and I certainly don't feel like I'm worried about the court process. But there is something striking there, which is Steve Bannon is trying to play this outside game, and he's quoting and criticizing the press, and he's making his own media, and he was even plugging the War Room on his way into court. So that's what's happening in the media universe of an echo chamber, that, again, he is a skilled communicator. He may have some larger purpose outside court. But I got to tell you, there are much higher stakes for Mr. Bannon and anyone else who defies subpoenas than headlines back in court, back in the criminal case. Politico reporting on those proceedings today, noting the judge rejected Bannon's effort to slow walk this contempt case. Bannon's lawyer was arguing it could take a while for Bannon to be ready to present a defense because it has complex constitutional issues. And they asked the judge to basically delay the next hearing all the way out until next year. And they lost. Now, why am I showing you this? Because you can see the contrast. This is a far cry from Bannon's public bravado about smash-mouth politics and turning the tables, and he's so confident. Well, it doesn't really fit with the legal strategy where he's basically using his lawyers to beg for more time, and they're not getting it. How complex is the case? The judge will show it to you, denying the delay request, setting the next hearing for the first week of December, and reportedly feeling unimpressed with a whole other part of Bannon's defense right now. Now, Bannon's legal team has also been pressed on what they are holding back, what they're essentially hiding from the January 6th probe. Now, we mentioned this before. I just want to give the context. Donald Trump was only basically talking to certain people at certain times, and thus only requested that Bannon not disclose privileged information. Bannon's lawyer, though, went way farther than that, saying to the committee, to the investigation, they won't produce documents or testifying about anything at all. That means they don't even have an arguable defense for a lot of the material demanded under this subpoena. This may sound like we're getting into the weeds, but it's actually important. What it means is that even if there were arguable or debatable issues about, say, what Bannon said to Trump while Trump were president, he didn't confine his defiance to those arguable issues. He just said no outright, which makes his case weaker. It basically puts a giant hole in his case, and Bannon's own lawyer just did an interview where they kind of admit that.
There are certainly conversations. If you're talking about conversations outside of the executive branch, then clearly those are not covered by executive privilege.
They're not covered by executive privilege. If Bannon's own team's admitting these holes in public, if that's their defense, well, just wait until the prosecution gets a hold of this and gives their version of their case. Is one of Donald Trump's ultimate architects and loyal allies headed to jail to hide things from January 6th? What does that tell us about why they want to hide it? And does this accountability process matter? We have been covering this case repeatedly on The Beat with a range of reporting and experts. We have a very special guest now for the first time. That is Julius Jones' sister, Antoinette Jones. I know this has been a very difficult time and day for you and your family. Thank you for joining us. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. I'm doing a lot better. I'm doing pretty good. My parents were elated. My mom, she yelled, "Thank you, Jesus," hallelujah. And I felt the same way, but I also understand that we still have a fight on our hands. So I'm appreciative to our Pardon and Parole Board for their consistency, and I'm appreciative to our governor for stopping the execution of my brother.
How did you hear the news?
We were sitting at a table at Denny's, and our campaign director, Cece, got the word from our defense team, a few members of our defense team. That's how we found out. And then I called my parents, and over speaker, I relayed it to them.
Was it something that you felt could still happen, or by today, which is the day of the scheduled execution, you had surmised and felt perhaps it was not going to happen, that he was going to be executed by the state today?
To be honest with you, my faith compelled me to believe that my brother would not be executed. Just my relationship with God. And I know a lot of people are like, well, that's crazy. Well, you have to have crazy faith to be a Christian. You have to have crazy faith to go by faith and things that you can't see. That is my mindset just going forward. It's always, I'm going to speak. I speak things, and I pray and ask God for things, and I expect to receive them.
There was a lot of interest in the case. We and others documenting many of the problems in the trial. We're not going to go into all of them at this juncture. But widening even beyond just your brother's case, people have learned about it and seen that the justice system, and particularly the capital punishment system, has documented racism in it in America. What do you think people need to understand about this since you've lived it so closely?
There is racism plays a huge. It's huge. It was huge in Jesus' case. It definitely was huge in the 90s. Just the layers with which Julius's current defense team had to go through just to find out all of these loopholes, and you definitely have to have resources, and my community doesn't necessarily have resources to have adequate counsel. And in the state of Oklahoma, there's a significant amount of lawyers that do not know about they don't have capital murder experience. So that was also an issue back then in Julius's cases. There were not a lot of attorneys that had capital murder experience. So the lawyer that Julius first had, Mr. Albert Berry, I hope I'm saying his name right, he passed. Mm-hmm. And so that's when the DA in the past, Bob Mazie, appointed David McKenzie, who was not well equipped and he didn't have resources. So yeah.
I mentioned in our original reporting and today the victim's family response, and they have a role in this as well, and they've spoken out, and your family's spoken out. What else do you want people to know about your brother, who was apprehended and caught up in this at a very young age, and as this has been his life? We showed some video from him as well, which was the one somewhat rare time that we heard from him when he was presenting to the board. But what else do you want people to know about him now that today his life has been spared by the system?
I want people to know that my brother is innocent. And I'm not just saying that because he's my brother. I'm saying that because I was there. He was at the house with us. Julius was at the house with us during Mr. Howe's murder. We were celebrating Julius's birthday over a birthday cookie. And my oldest brother, Antonio, and I took a huge piece of Julius's birthday cookie. And I mean, when he seen it, he was so mad. He was like, I can't wait to tell mom and get home. Y'all always eat my stuff. And I won't forget that because he paced back and forth through the living room and the kitchen, waiting for mom to come home from taking my oldest brother to work. So when he met her at the door. That's something I won't forget because I was like, oh, I'm going to get in big trouble. But I want people to know that my brother...
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. I want people to know that my brother is not a person that would take someone's life. He's a person that would step in front of a bullet for someone. He's a person that pours in love. He is my greatest supporter, my greatest fan. Yes, sir.
Yeah, understood. And legally that goes to the offered alibi, as well as many other issues in the trial, which we've covered. I'll direct viewers to MSNBC.com or YouTube, where we have the longer report we did on the case. But it was quite a legal development today to see the governor step in just hours before your brother's scheduled execution there to commute the sentence. And I will just say, not as a journalist, but as a human being, it must have been quite the day and the roller coaster all this time for you and your family. And I know, as you and others have said, there's a lot more work left to do. But these are important facts and stories for people to know. So I appreciate you coming on the beat and talking to us tonight, Ms. Jones.
Yes, sir. Thank you for having us.